Trigger warning. Suicide is discussed in this podcast episode 211. If this causes you any distress, please call Lifeline Australia on 13 11 14. Or please contact your nearest doctor. Or in a crisis, please contact your emergency services and your nearest hospital and emergency department in your country for medical assistance. Welcome to Feel Good From Within. I'm Yvette Le Blowitz, your host. Today's guest is Dr. Ardeshir Mehran, who is a psychologist, psychoanalyst, transformation leader, leadership coach, depression expert, and author. In You Are Not Depressed, You Are Unfinished, Dr. Ardeshir Mehran shares how you can use feelings of depression and anxiety to fuel a soaring life. I am really grateful you are choosing to listen into this podcast episode. I hope this conversation allows you to learn, develop, and grow. Welcome everyone to Feel Good From Within. I'm super excited to be here with you today and with our very special guest, Dr. Ardeshir Mehran. How are you today?
I'm doing great, and just seeing you, Yvette, and then in your program, I'm just delighted. I love people who have a unique way of seeing, feeling, expressing the world. So love to be here and love to have a great conversation with you and your guests. What I bring to them, once you know all of you, you feel whole, you feel complete. Still a struggle. How do you best show up? But you don't ignore part of you. We actually become very powerful. And that scares people. Powerful people who are authentic, they unnerve people because everybody wants you to be in certain ways.
Now, before we dive into your brand new book, are you happy to tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
I live right outside San Francisco. So I'm a father, I'm a spouse, I'm a sibling, and I'm a psychologist, behavioral researcher, executive coach, been up to 2 years ago, corporate executive. For a long time, I was studying and was exploring why people get emotionally ill, the whole notion of emotional illness. As a researcher, I'm a skeptical researcher. I don't trust theories. I believe psychologists, me included, we make things up when we try to understand things. So I was paying attention to people, why people get depressed, why people get anxious, why going to therapy takes a long time. You go to therapy for weeks and months and years, and still you don't seem quite getting better. So I went to work over 30 years to answer two questions. What is depression, and why depression healing takes so long? And the reason it was important to me, grew up, I was depressed. Mom and dad, siblings. And when you're depressed and you live in a family who do not emotionally feel well, you don't realize it. Then when I went to the world, met other friends, to college, to world of work, realized almost everybody has personal sorrow, personal struggles. And in people's everyday life, you don't see depression. You see anxiety. Anxiety, you feel restless, you're fidgety, you outburst, you're sweating, your heart rate, your stomach. Depression, you do not see. There's a sense of private gloom, private heaviness on your heart. You just see it. You just feel deflated. And you see it in people for a long time. So I went on a quest to solve it. And what I learned, and it's in my book, actually, we are looking things backwards. We see depression as a cause of our unhappiness. That is a lie. Depression is a consequence. Why we are unhappy, why we are depressed, because we're living a life that is not our life, unfulfilled life. We accept almost like a prisoner who's in the prison and see light and shadow from the window and think that's the reality. It's like a caged animals in zoo. They come to accept that this is what nature is. That's what happens to us. We are almost a caged animal in a life that we end up living in it. That's not who we are. Once we know there's a greatness that's meant to be fulfilled abundantly, once we know that and step into that, depression dissolves and dissipates and becomes fuel for growth. Depression, we should not tolerate that. Medication, brain, we're saying that there's a problem with our brain. These are, yes, that happens, but those are not causes. I'm in a crusade to tell the world, wake up, don't suffer, claim your life. And depression, mental illness, you just see them dissolve and go away.
Wow. And that leads me to asking you a question. With your 30 years background in psychology, have you seen where people are working in a job that they hate or don't like, as an example, affects their mental health and
Yes.
triggers and makes them feel depressed because they hate the job they're going to?
Absolutely. There's research on that, and it's in my book, the chapter that I talk about the world of work, that we know from research year after year. There's an organization in the US called Gallup. They are basically a survey organization. Year after year, they have an annual survey of tens of thousands of Americans across different segments of society, different wards, different levels. What it shows that every year, between 70 to 75% of Americans in the world of work, again, this can be executive, office job, or manual work, they are dissatisfied, disengaged. The numbers go a few percent up and down, but it's been like that for almost the last 25 years. Another research Gallup has done, and also I'm a graduate of Columbia University in New York, and Columbia University has done that. When we have low engagement scores, in those groups, the rate of depression and anxiety are higher. In groups that there are multiple layers of management, rate of depression and anxiety are higher. Why is that? It's almost like becomes a place that you become a cog in the wheel, that you don't have energy. You just basically a number. This is government workers are all about. The system takes over you. The opposite of that, your environment, that you are seen, you create something that is your work. Many of us are in world of work because we need to pay the bill. We have kids, we need cars, mortgages, and we do the work. It's not our work. We don't like the people. Our boss is miserable, person, makes us crazy, and we just tolerate it. Tolerating kills us. We basically numb ourselves. So that's what happens. Being in a job that is not the right environment, not the right work, and is not treating you well, that has punishing impact on us.
And do you feel then some people that visit you will feel a sense of hopelessness, a sense of, I look at the job market, I can't see another job, that to some extent they need to have a belief that they can either reskill or find another job? I find that it's very difficult for people who are used to, this is what I earn right here, and they're nearly scared of changing a career, looking for something different, because over here they got the money coming in, even though they feel unsatisfied or unfulfilled. Yeah. Do you see that in your clinical work?
There's more to that. One is that you're in a job, you may not have the skill. You may not know quite, how do I live? What has paid the bill for me, but go get something more nurturing, more meaningful to me. What happens when we feel really depressed is that you have a sense of hopelessness, that I have no control, that I've been done to. I'm a victim. I don't know what to do. Once the change is the mindset that I have options. I don't have to tolerate this. I can do better. I may not know what to do. I may not have the resume or credentials to go get a better job. But for time being, when it could be last many years, I will work toward something better. I will plan for it and gradually make the change. Once we surrender emotionally and spiritually that this is the best I can do, our body really shuts down. That's where depression comes in. So it's the mindset of, I can't do anything about it. I'm stuck. Versus, I'm stuck because I have obligations. I don't know a better way, but there's a bigger person inside me. I will figure it out. Even if it takes 15 years, 20 years, I will get out of here finally. That gives us hope.
I love that message. I will figure it out. even if it takes me 15 or 20 years, that gives me hope. And I
Yes.
think that's a key message with the cost of living increasing, inflation. Many people might feel like they're trapped
Yeah.
in this dark, depressed. They're just going to work to pay the bills, and even the money they're getting from the job
Yeah.
that once gave them some sort of happiness in life where they
Yeah.
could afford to go out for dinner or buy a nice shirt or something, with that lifestyle now gone, feeling stuck, trapped. But I
Exactly.
think the message of hope, I'll figure it out.
We figured it out. We are figuring out animals. We figure it out. We're born to figure things out. When we feel
Mm.
trapped, powerless, isolated, that we have no power, our body literally gives up, gives hope, more or less crumble. That's what depression is. Depression is basically everything crumbles, internal implosion. We just crumble, we give in. There's a very sad statistics, in the US, people in middle of America, like, in Midwest and also South, in the male population, which typically they are high school, they don't have college education, around between 30 to 50 years, they have the highest rate of all people in the society of diseases, alcoholism, violence, and early premature death. Why is that? That's where most unemployment happens. Why is that? Those are the areas, they used to be jobs, factories, labor work that they all moved away, robots, jobs being sent overseas, and more or less knowledge worker. So these are wonderful people. There's nothing for them to be prosperous, to have a sense of life living. They feel trapped and they really give up, and they started to basically get unhealthy and die at a fast rate at young age.
And I think that's when I've discovered why some people will leave, say, a small country town in
Yeah.
Australia where there might be no job opportunities, and they'll just have to make a decision. I could either stay here unemployed or change and create a better life for me by finding a job elsewhere. And that takes great courage. But if it saves someone's life,
Yeah.
it's definitely worth it.
That's right. But it's really important for us when you're in motion toward anything with all the struggle, it may take a long time. It could be baby step incremental. We are hopeful. We have a sense of purpose, sense of trajectory. When there's no motion, it's almost like a still water that gets cruddy, gets dark, a lot of sediment. Same thing true with us. But I tell people when it says, Ardeshir, I don't know where to start. And I tell them, do anything. Doesn't matter. Once you start to do something, your body's awakened and you will find the right answer, the right steps. But do anything versus just go home, bottle of beer and watch TV. That does not help you. Go do anything. Go mow the lawn. Go walk down the street, walk your dog. Do anything. Just motion heals.
I like to practice the yoga
Yeah.
on the mat because I find it gets me back into the body. And by the end of even, say, doing 10 minutes of yoga, which I just do on YouTube, or 20 minutes, by the end, I've actually found some new idea
Yeah.
to my problems, something that, that could be a new opportunity, something that can get me out of the jam,
Yeah.
something that can elevate me and give me a different perspective.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
I have been that person that sat on the chair and had a drink of alcohol. And like I always say, it doesn't solve anything. If anything, it makes it worse.
Exactly.
I have found through movement,
Yes.
helps with stress, but it just gives some more perspective. And I often say, when you're in a boxing ring
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're in the corner, it gives you that opportunity to just do one more jab and take one more step forward.
That's
and
right.
It sort of helps you get off the ropes.
And so in my chapter in the book, I'm Boundless. What we know from research, these are no more than 10 years old. We think with our entire body. So again, that whole notion of mind and body separation, it is artificial distinction that we know from research. Let's say you have a brainstorming session or kids in school. When we tell children, the class teaching, allow children to stand up, have their body presence versus sit behind your desk and put your hand on the table and stop being fidgety, or in the conference room, brainstorming. Have it like a paper on the wall, give everybody a magic marker, say, go write your ideas. So when people move, they create more ideas, better ideas, and they learn more. They're more productive. We think at much faster rate when our body is engaged. So this is the integrity of brain and body. We think three-dimensional versus one-dimensional process in our brain. That's not how we were raised. We're taught that we are thinking animal thinking happen in our brain. We know from the neurology actually that is incorrect. Our entire body is involved in feeling, thinking, processing the world. The more we use our entire body, the thinking is better, we feel better, and we get more things done.
One of the things I learned from reading your book was about I am complete and how the brain follows the body. Can you share more about that with our audience?
This is again coming from the neurology and from pain clinics and trauma center. There's been tremendous advancement. So when you look at the human body, the way we see that brain sits over here on the top, and over the decades and centuries, we use the term mental illness, mental wellness, as if only action, thinking happens in our brain. What we know, actually, that term, scientifically, mental or brain or mental illness is incorrect. It's our entire being with body at the center. So even though our brain is at the top, the way we really operate, imagine a circle. In the center is the brain. In the perimeter is our body. There are two layers. One is that our gut, what we perceive the environment, and first we perceive the world in the space of safety. Is the world is safe? Is our evolutionary process? Am I safe here? Can I let go of my guard and open up and be sitting here safe and secure? That we feel it in our gut first. Is the first part of our body. The next one is the heart and lungs. This is the center of protection. Do I need to do anything, or can I just connect with people? Can I be open? Can I be more participative? Can I just give and take versus I need to take charge? So once those happen, we feel safe, we feel connected, brain and brain processes kicks in. So we perceive the world with a sense of safety, with sense of am I protected? Do I need to be on guard, or can I be open? Then brain does its own magical brain processing. The reason this is important, somebody doesn't feel safe and protected, logic is irrelevant. That's why we get into conflict. We're arguing and people are yelling and screaming, nobody listening, because they don't feel safe. They don't feel protected. They are trying to go turfy. I want to protect myself. Number one. Number two, what we learn, brain has a notion of time, remembers fragment of past, what happened, who did when, to whom, and so on. Brain doesn't feel anything. Feeling happens in the body through sensations, through expansion of our muscle tightness, through suddenly we feel rush of blood, heart rate changes, breathing pattern changes, our stomach tightens, hormones rushes to our bodies. That's how we feel. You're scared, you're happy, you're in love, you're frightened, I need to run, I need to stay. And that brain kicks in. And body only lives in the moment. Body in the moment. Body has no memories. So if there are, what we know from psychotherapy, based upon body-based, if there are emotions keep coming, like in the case of trauma, childhood trauma, what body is thinking that those memories, those events are still happening. So body is still waiting to close a traumatic or painful experience it thinks is still happening. Talk therapy in those situations don't help. Body only responds to action. Do something, say something, run, come back. I love you, I hate you. You need to do something. So what we learned from the modern science is bringing the language of the body, because then things that happened to you way back when, you can resolve them right now. You don't even need to know what happened to you. You work with whatever happened to you right now. Resolve the emotions that's stuck in your body, Deal with them so your body can let go. There is a beauty to these parts, the way we are designed, that we literally, scientifically, we can recreate, be reborn at every millisecond, creating new experiences. And that does not require a lot of past analysis, going back, remembering what happened. You can create a new beginning by the way you are right now, by integrating your body and mind and do what's important to you in this very moment. And when you do that, you realize everything you need for happiness, for fulfillment, for joy is already inside you. Nobody told us how to use it. We have a much better, simple operating manual. Nobody gave us the guidelines. That's what modern science is doing. That's what we know.
When you talked about the body and you've ever been to a therapy session to talk about your problems, I don't think even I've ever been asked, how are you feeling even in your body?
Yeah.
A lot of the symptoms, like you mentioned with the anxiety, you do feel that in your gut or fluttery in your chest or jittery or might feel sick.
So over the years, in my depression, I went to 7 psychologists, to a psychiatrist, medication, and it was all the same thing. What happened to you? What do you remember? Because that's how the training of clinician to this day is all about, is the narrative talk therapy. There's a seismic shift, significant shifts happening with the field of psychotherapy. These shifts are slow and very contentious because there are a lot of people believe in talk therapy. But the way you mentioned, in every situation, when emotions happen, you have physical manifestation, you're fluttering, your emotions, you feel you want to say something, your throat is tight, you're sweating, you get very tongue-tied, just get hesitant. The thing to do is inviting the person the following types of a question. What are you sensing? And people say, sensing what? And I say, your entire body, head to toe. What is coming up for you? I do not ask them, how are you feeling? Because the moment you do that, becomes a cognitive language based. And we all have wonderful words for that. What are you sensing? And people say, tell me more. So it could be like a sensation, your body, your stomach, your knees, your hips. People say, I feel like tightness in my gut. I feel my pressure on my heart. Put your hand where you have sensation in your body. What sensation are you feeling? Where in your body do you have any sensations? What that sensation looks like? Helping the person notice your body. And bring your body into the conversation. And as it goes further, this resides, and say that as you do that, what emotions come up for you? What are you noticing? What thoughts come up for you? And you notice two things happen. People start to integrate, become more whole. Oh my gosh, breathing almost like exhale. People get easier to talk. There are often tears, men and women. It's just finding themselves that have been blocking, not even paying attention to my body. And there's a way, let the body speak. Body speaks louder than the brain. People say, my stomach's hurting. And I tell them, are there parts of your body that feels different, feels better? Because we could at any moment feeling tightness, hurt in one part, but sense of joy or sense of ease in other parts. You want to invite the other person to notice that your body can have them both and create a more holistic wholeness in the body. Once you do that, overall, the process of psychotherapy is a lot faster. So I tell people, I don't want you to come to see me for many sessions. People come to me with 5, maybe 10, maximum 15 sessions. They resolve significant improvement in their depression, PTSD, trauma, ADHD, panic attacks. You don't need to come and see me. Once you bring your body into the conversation, you learn how to self-manage and you're good to go.
That's interesting. That makes sense why I then like yoga as such, because
Yes.
it allows me to connect with my body. And the teacher often says, how do you feel? Like, feel into your body. So you're feeling into your stomach or your chest or your back or hips. So you're really getting into the body. Whereas before, if I just did, say, walking,
Yeah.
whilst it's good, I have still discovered I can think a lot. I mean, I walk in nature, but
Yeah.
I always feel really connected and whole after the body yoga work. Is that
Yes.
what you've discovered with
It is.
people getting into the body?
It is. So like if you see behind me in the office, people do come here. It's the elongated, room. There's a yoga mat behind me. You don't see it right there. So when people come to my office to do like therapy session, most of the time they are not sitting. They're sitting the first 5-10 minutes, like checking in. But there's some time people say I'm angry or like I wanted, relationships, not happy, or I'm frustrated with my manager. I invite them, when you're frustrated with your manager, show me what frustration looks like. Because when we're frustrated, we are angry, we are in love, when we want to bust out, we feel it. So show it. Show it. You can use your words, but show what frustration looks like, expression looks like. And then, because once you do that, your body does something, your brain remembers. We can only change to the edges of safety and protection, as I mentioned. So as you create a sense to change that, like you said, I want to tell my manager, I want to raise. But every time I go, they get tongue tied. We work that. How do you tell your manager for your entire being, your entire body? As you do that, your brain remembers and restores a way of, I'm going to say that and I'll be strong. I'll be confident. I believe in me. I may not get the raise, but I believe in me. So you create body memories. We create body memories, then we have cognitive memories in that sequence. Body memories and then cognitive memory.
This is so interesting because I was only thinking of what you do in your therapy, which, when I reflect on my own family culture with the Aboriginal culture, a lot of storytelling is done in dance, and it's
Yes.
very, if you would look at it in this day and age, theatrical. And when you talked about putting your body into it, many of the ancient cultures, when they expressed how they felt,
Yeah,
it was with body.
that's right.
I have discovered in, say, our Western culture, we're taught to be shut up, sit down, be rigid, don't
That's right.
say a word,
That's right.
which
Use the word.
really takes us further away from ancient wisdom or ancient practice. So I love what you're doing there in your clinic. I mean, that's
Thank you.
amazing.
And thank you. And you mentioned ancient. That's how we're designed. We are one integrated being. I tell people we are like lioness and lions in savannah. Everything we do with our entire being. But then around the time of enlightenment, late 1700, we became talking heads. We told our children, sit there, use your words, don't be fidgety. I raised a kid, and children, whenever they do, they go all in. They're like popcorn. That's how we are. But we suck the life out of them to the point these days, our body is like a transport machine. Our legs to bring our head, sit behind the computer, behind the conference room talking. And then when we get body aches, we don't know what to do. We think our stomach is hurting, my chest is hurting, versus my stomach's hurting because I've lost system integrity. In fact, the term healing is a Greek term. It means to be made whole. Mental illness is the lack of wholeness. Pain brings us home and says that we are not whole. And we just take medication, we go to therapy, versus help the person become whole again, mind, body, emotions, the spirit. And that's what the problem is. We are not broken, integrated.
I love that. And that leads us on to one of the next questions, which I loved in your book. You talked about I am, how we compromise ourselves, our voices, our truth for the sake of fitting in.
Yeah.
So, how can we get to know our truth?
So fitting in, it means that we all have an opinion. We all have a voice. We all think about something. It might be the stupidest idea. It might be most ridiculous idea. Nonetheless, it's your idea, come from you. And for you, holding it back, not sharing it with others, it actually does damage to you. This doesn't mean we are right. It means that maybe we need to learn how to present our idea, make it more logical, structure it, learn about to be more persuasive. But many people hold back, don't share. And we also, from the people who raise kids, we say, is there different words you can use? Can you use logic? Can you use, be more thoughtful about how you want to express your idea? Every society, every community has a way of indoctrination of children. How do you speak? How do you say correctly? So we teach how to say things. We strip the uniqueness of individuals. That's what colleges, schools do. Uniqueness is that the idea you have, the feelings you have, the perceptions you have, they are important. They are your ideas. They have a place in this world. They are the gift in this world. And find a way to share your ideas, could with your mother, with your boss, with your partner, your community, but a way to bring your idea because that's your gift. Not sharing that actually does emotional damage with you because that's how you feel anxious, holding back. That's how you get depressed, feel that part of you is lost. This is very important for people in today's society. We're trying to fit in, to be liked, to be invited to party, to get promoted. We're trying to basically strip everything. In fact, I was a coach, and part of my leadership coach taught people poker face, that how do you say things in a very cerebral, even keel way so people can hear you. I'm so sorry for all those people told them to taught them to versus just be you, be colorful, be colorful. You need to be still sensible, but trying to make everybody fit in, be cerebral, that's not how humans are. Emotions, what makes us pay attention to. When you become very cognitive, talking head, you become boring. We teach leaders to be boring, just be boring so people will listen to you. We have done damage that way to generations of people for the sake of fitting in. In fact, we tell for men, don't get angry. For women, don't get hysterical. Versus no, it means people who have emotions, hell, bring it in to share what's on your mind. Still, you need to make sure you come across a way that you can be heard and appreciated, but it's about you and sharing your thoughts.
And you know what I think, especially during the pandemic and even to this day, because people's thoughts or opinions or the way they wanted to live their life or their choice got shut down.
Yeah.
That's caused a lot of animosity in the communities because people don't want to really hear someone else's opinion if it's not in alignment with their opinion. And
That's right.
I think we have so much dissent when people are trying to tell someone else how to live their life.
Yes.
Like I said to someone, it's like someone is a vegan and they don't want to eat meat. But if you keep singing from the treetops or the hill, eat meat, eat meat, eat meat, you will eat red meat. I don't care I don't care you don't want to eat that. And then someone else will love meat and want to eat meat, red meat. And then someone who doesn't believe in eating red meat will be like, you shouldn't eat red meat. You can't eat red meat. And it's like everyone's fighting over red meat. And I'm like, how did we get to this
That's right.
situation in a community where we're all talking?
That's right.
And I came up with an idea that if we just listened and had a bit more silence, it might work out better. Are you seeing that in your clinic or even in your day-to-day life where we're so in our thoughts, we spend so much time talking and up here that as a whole, right around the world, we need to spend more time in the body?
Yeah. We do. I mean, the reason people do that eat this, don't eat that, do this, don't do that, it creates a sense of predictability of life because we love predictable situations. We humans We operate based upon narratives we have, certain world belief. The narratives create a sense of preferences. I like this, I don't like that. And that becomes actions, preferences to outside. The way to connect is to invite other people's narratives. When you say, I like meat or I don't like meat, tell me about it. What do you see? What does it mean to you? How does that relate to you? What do you believe in? Is not judging, is not criticizing or saying that, trying to find holes, that they have certain truth they believe in. The discussion is that I believe in your belief and your narratives. I have different ones. This works for me. That works for you. We can both go to the restaurant. You order this, I order that, and that's perfectly fine. We don't have to have a single point. And if there's a point that we need to order one meat that is good for us, let's discuss how do we find a way to settle in. The reason this is important about narrative, as I bring in my work to the world, telling people that actually you can heal depression, anxiety, PTSD, ADHD, because these are all symptoms, these are all manifestations. There are people who write me across the globe. There are not many, but people write and say that, Ardeshir, I am ADHD. I have a doctor's note saying that I'm ADHD. That's why I have distractibility. I lose the train of my thought and so on and so on. So it's the narrative of I have a diagnosis, therefore I act certain ways. The narrative that I share with them, very gentle way, that actually that narrative is incorrect. ADHD is not in your brain needing medication since you were a teenager. ADHD is about early life attachment, human connections not formed. That's the reason you continuously trying to find some stability. That narrative is powerful and unnerving because it means the power of wellness, of healing resides with you. That the same thing with depression. You can take the medication, go to therapy forever, but you can heal yourself by living a different life, different choices, bringing goodness to yourself. For some people, it's almost saying that the jail you're in, the door has always been open and you can come out of it. We humans, we love predictability, even though that predictability kills us. That to be free, to let go of mental illness, we need to see that we can create our world, ourselves, our emotions. That is powerful. For some people, it's very frightening. They love to be in prison, and that's okay.
So that in itself is, if we identify as an example with a label, I am depressed.
Yeah.
I am depressed, and as a result, I will live with this depression for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Then if we identify with that and make that decision, that is the outcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if we choose the opposite,
Yeah.
which is I will heal myself.
That's right. That's right.
And I don't have to live with depression for the rest of my life. That's a different narrative, because many people get told that if they have bipolar disorder, depression, as an example, you will be depressed. Now that you've been diagnosed with depression, you will live with depression for the rest of your life. Or you're diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Now that you're bipolar, you need to identify as that.
That's right.
And that's your label now. That's your pigeonhole.
That's right.
And see this XYZ, that's what you now are. Okay.
That's right. That's right. I mean, they see mental illness as a medical condition that you need treatment and medication for a long time. And there's a issue with your brain, and brain chemistry, versus there are certain life conditions happened that led to compromises in your brain cells and the medical conditions. And those are reversible. Those are reversible. All the schizophrenia, these are all reversible. So when people call me, literally several times a month, they call me from across the globe. They read the element of my book, read my books, seen my social media, and they say, I'm tired of being depressed. I'm tired of medication. Why am I depressed? Literally, this is what I tell them. Dear friend, the reason you're depressed, there are certain emotional experiences, emotional rights. You have them, I have them, everybody has them. those they didn't get to be fully shaped for you. There are things they didn't get for you be available to you. They were violated. Nobody told you about it, or they didn't get fulfilled for you. Those are your rights. Parents didn't give it to you. The teachers, the mayors, the presidents, those are your rights. Once you know them, you start from where you are and fulfill them, claim them. You see depression changes. You see anxiety changes. And you see your condition changes versus trying to contain your situation with therapy and medications. Many people, almost 98% of people love it. They start the journey. Very handful of people say, no, I know I'm depressed. I need my medication. Here's my medication. I say, in my heart says, I love you. I respect you. And if you ever change, if you want suggestion, call me. But we can reverse things. We can definitely reverse our struggles.
I love that message. We can reverse things. We can reverse our struggles.
Yes.
And I think you are so right with this, because from my own experience and people I've spoken to, as an example, depression could be triggered with the failure of a business, a marriage failure, all kinds of things. But quite often it's a setback or a perception of what you thought was going to turn out like this.
Yeah.
But it doesn't.
That's right.
And it's that actually is what makes you feel depressed, hopeless, not good.
Yeah.
But then I've seen people who, even as I know, get another job or live in a new place or create a new life.
Yeah.
But I think one of the key messages from your book, and even speaking to you today, is having a belief right now, what you mentioned, that you can reverse it.
Yes.
That this doesn't need to be the outcome for the rest of your life.
That's right.
You don't have to buy into, I am depressed.
Yeah.
Mental stigma comes with that, which can cause a lot of shame.
That's right.
And you talked about shame in your book.
Yeah.
And how shame can actually be one of the most important things, because it makes us feel bad, that there's something wrong with us, that at the core and our identity. How do we then work on not feeling shameful?
So we humans, from the early age, we are taught to toxic emotions, shame and guilt. Guilt means you did something wrong. Shame is that you are wrong. There's something wrong with you, that you as you are is a tool for control. Parents use that. Teacher use that. Sometimes it's overt language. Sometimes the way you looked. Sometimes it's the party you didn't get invited to, and then the sleight of hands or saying that there's something wrong with you. We all want a sense of being seen, be heard, given a space to show up as we are, say our things, listen to. You say something and there's an eye contact, look at you and let you finish what you wanted to say as you wanted to say it, versus that certain point says, that was silly. Why did you say that? So we all respond to certain emotions like that. And shame, especially when it comes from our early caregivers, parents, that create a sense of you are not good. You're broken. You're deficient. Your parts missing. We go through life, many people go through life and they don't realize they're holding on to those emotions that they feel I'm not whole. It becomes complicated when you become a parent yourself. You realize you want to give love to your child and you don't feel full. The way you come out of it is going to use the way we are designed. That body has no memory of time. That whatever you do, is the way I do with clients, when we work in the space of shame and being shamed and being said you're not good enough, we break the life in millisecond, in 5-second increment. Whether you're with me, you're with your partner in ice cream shop, you're talking with your boss, in those 5 sessions, focus on this moment. Just say what comes up for you. Just say what you believe in as you wanted to say it. And in that 5 minutes, could be 2 minutes, take a deep breath after that and say that was darn good. I did the best I could. And I tell people the way we're designed, we can screw up all the time and you get up, try again. So I know we asked the person with my in the room here, did you like how you said it? People said, no, it wasn't good enough. I want to talk to my partner. It wasn't good enough. I say that, do it again. I'm here. I will cheer you on. Get up and show up, act out, do it again. And set one say, this was good. I like it. This shame goes away. You have a view of yourself that is good enough and you like how you show up. In our brain, we don't have like our computer backspace delete. So toxic memories will always be there. But what we can create memories that they're good, they are right, they're wholesome, and practice them. And gradually the energy or cellular pathway goes toward those energy. Emotions go where the energy is, what we pay attention to. So very soon, those things of the past becomes memories that we remember them, but we don't get tricked by them or drawn by them. So we create new memories that is not shameful, is real, is authentic. And you like it. You like yourself, the way you showed up in those moments, 2-3 minutes at a time.
I love that. I'm looking straight behind you right there, and on the clipboard, a big white message board, quote is, there is no greater agony than an untold story inside you, by Maya Angelou. So if someone also has a shameful story, they feel that it's shameful, but it might not be. As an example, they might be ashamed that they got diagnosed by a doctor that they're depressed. And now that shame, because of the mental illness stigma, it still is here today in many small country towns in Australia, and I'm sure right around the world. Are they best off telling someone they have depression, or is it okay that they make a decision within that they're going to not be depressed for the rest of their life? I mean, how do they find a balancing act there?
So there's two parts around this. One is the label, the other one, how do we heal? So let me answer. We heal when we tell our story in our own language as we experience it. When we tell our story, number one, and our story needs to be heard by a person who is really attuned to our voice and to our expression. Not to give advice, not to say, no, let me tell you what really is, to honor our story. When we don't tell our story, that's shame, ridicule, and a sense of, I only like you if you talk about X, Y, and Z, versus tell me your story. The best thing we can do for our friends, for our members, for community, invite them to a conversation and hear them. That's what human is all about. Once people tell their story, really who are they telling them is to themselves. And body feels honored. They feel that I'm okay. I told that somebody my story and that person didn't give me eye roll, scold me, or criticize me. With respect to mental illness, the labels, we use them as a life sentence. You're depressed. There's something wrong with you. That's the problem with our medicine these days, that we see it as deficiency. You're broken. There's some kind of an impairment in you. So the whole field of psychiatry that creates those labels, it is broken. It's almost like becoming archaic treatment. There's a tension within the field of psychology has already splintered about looking at emotional struggle as human adaptive responses versus there's something wrong with you, like biological and neurological. But the thing is that for people who hear this message, there's nothing wrong with you. Mental illness are adaptive responses. The reason you experience depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive, it was the way you were raised, the choices you had. As you had to rely on way of responding to survive, to have your needs met, or ignore your environment because your needs were not met and you couldn't tolerate that. Inherently, there's nothing wrong with you. You did the best you could to survive. And you can create a different environment to learn different adaptive responses. Some psychiatrists don't buy this. I don't know what the response is, but do not accept mental illness as a life sentence.
Do not accept mental illness as a life sentence. And I think with the cost of living, with so many people feeling overwhelmed, under pressure,
Yeah.
squeezing into the back of that boxing ring rope, there will be a lot of people who will be getting told by their GP, you've just got depression, you're depressed and have this and have that. But I think what you have highlighted throughout the show, and it's in your book, is we have these circumstances in life.
Yeah.
And it's through these experiences in life that can cause us to feel depressed. But as an example, in 2 years' time, if inflation goes down and people have some more money and the cost of rent or food or electricity or phone, and the list goes on and on and on, come down, then people could have a reverse back with their health and bounce back and feel a bit better.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. You're very adaptive. The same thing goes with emotions. And again, we sit with emotions because we were led to believe to be this way. And our bodies, once they get programmed in certain ways, we start to believe our own internal narratives. Versus once we change our own internal narratives, our reality changes as well.
Because I keep telling a lot of people who are doing it tough. I know there's pensioners even in Australia where their rent's gone up to $480 a week. They're on a pension, no way of getting extra money because of their injuries or whatever it might be, their age. And I often say this, we just have to ride this out.
Yeah. That's
we
right.
have bad seasons. And I know even when I was on the Aussie farm, they had a rule of thumb, 5 bad seasons to 1 good one. And it's a bit going back to what you said about it might take 15 years or 20 years, but keep the hope.
Yeah.
You can't give up. Things are going to get tough and they're going to get hard, but do not give up. You mentioned move your body, get into the body.
Right. Yeah.
Even if they're doing, say, some form of boxing on a boxing bag. That's even getting into the body, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, because brain is a spectator. When body is active and moving, running, like for example, I run marathon. And people say, Ardeshir, that's great. You go for marathon. And so you're really into sport. I love sport. And I tell them, no, it's not. I don't do it for the sake of sport. I do it for me to have faith in me. Because for those people who run marathon, it's really a trick of the mind, because by the time you get to the kilometer 5, 7, you think, why am I doing this? My knees hurting, my back hurting. Which part of this is fun? I keep telling myself, just go 2 more blocks, go 2 more streets. Then you get the adrenaline, you go further, then it becomes like kilometer 10, 15, your knees start to hurt. So everything says stop. And I just tell myself, those are times you find your flow. How do I run? That it's almost like we go with the energy, with the sense of ease versus pressing, pushing. I do this to have faith in me that I can do hard work, that I can trust myself. So I tell people I run marathon to have faith in me that I can do hard work with my emotions and say, I can heal myself. It's been a long time. I've been working on this project of undepressing myself 30 years. I run marathon to know I can do this. I can. So I just run. So by the time I finish the marathon, it's 46 kilometers. My knees hurting. I have blister. I'm crawling to the car. But it says, I did something and I'm okay, and I love myself. It's a private, I can do hard things. So boxing, do something for you.
First of all, congratulations on the marathon running. That's incredible. And I can resonate with that because I often go out at the hottest part of the day.
Yeah.
It's boiling hot. It's midday. And people go, why would you go for a walk?
Yeah.
in the hottest part of the day. And I say it's because I need to see if I'm mentally tough.
Yeah.
I need to challenge myself mentally,
Yeah.
because in life, I often say it's like an obstacle course.
That's right.
And if everything was super easy, then when something goes wrong, like as an example, my uncle sadly passed away 2 weeks ago.
I'm sorry about
And
that.
thank you so much. And I had to tell my elderly mother, who's in the aged care, that her brother passed away. I can talk underwater normally, but not in this occasion. And then I went for a walk. I didn't feel like going for the walk, a walk. And this is, I think, the time when moving the body is most important, when you don't feel like it. And I thought, no, I'm going to go for a walk in nature. And I looked at nature, and it's always very stoic.
Yeah.
And I thought, the trees will be there longer than I will ever be. The ocean, the mountains, I will come and go like a visitor on Mother Earth.
Yeah.
But I thought, it's in the times when you don't feel like going for the walk, you need to go. And I did it, and I felt so much better for doing it and for showing up and moving the body.
Yeah.
Like if I just sat down and maybe scrolled on my phone and sat inside, probably not the best. It's like I said to someone, life is like an obstacle course. You just get over one thing and then there's another. So you have to train, you have to prepare, and you have to be mentally tough.
Yeah.
And we've had 2 family funerals this year, and my cousin at the start of the year, sadly, he was only 32. He had a daughter of 1-year-old. Trigger warning, what I'm going to say next, everyone, trigger warning. And a 10-year-old son, partner, and wife of 16 years. And he sadly ended his life in February. And none of us could see this coming. And that took us out like a tsunami. And I even thought to myself, oh my goodness, I've got a mental health podcast show. I interview mental health experts, and here I am losing a cousin to mental illness, depression. And I thought, wow, didn't I feel like a fraud, or as they say, imposter syndrome? And I thought, man, wasn't he listening to my podcast show? But you learn in life that things get tough, but you really still have to keep moving your body.
Yeah.
No matter what life throws at you, just keep moving your body. So that's a really good message that you talk about in your book. And I want to ask you, with your own self-care rituals, what does that look like for you?
But there are some foundations. As I started to do my healing work and I come out of it, when you feel depressed, there are several things happen that they're imperceptible. One is you don't feel your body. Like, I talk about 5 senses. You don't really smell things. You don't enjoy the food. It's like you more or less check out from the world. And nobody sees that, including yourself. You feel disconnected. Number 2, you feel isolated. You feel lonely. You're in relationship, in a room full of people. You're admired. You feel disconnected. The third one is you feel you don't have a sense of control and agency. That life happening to me. I'm just stuck. I'm like a whitewater rafting. The river takes me. So the ritual that I have, so where I am in Northern California, there are parks, there are roads, I go running. I mean, you don't see around my office right now, I have all sort of objects from around the world, from around my camp. Like, for example, you see right now, I don't know if you see the bring camera, where is it? Like, it's a bird's nest.
Yes, I can see the bird's nest.
Bird's nest. So I go outside to the park, I walk my dog, and I just allow my eyes to see the nature, ordinary nature, the park, the grass. And I see the children playing, see the color of the season changing. When you do that, you come out of yourself, you connect to the environment around you. Other thing that happened, that ritual, is spending time with family. So as I start to heal myself, I've been married to a wonderful girl from the New York area. Being together, so I realized I'm not alone. I'm a father, I'm a spouse, a brother. That doesn't mean like with my siblings, we don't fight, we don't argue, we don't bicker, but I love them as they are. And you feel part of a community of people and they love you, you love them back, and you feel connected. That keeps me steady. So I spend time with my family, with my friends that they're close by. And the third one, going to that action, doing the small things you have control, like things I do. I love in the family after dinner every night, I wash the dishes. Why do you do that? I have control over something. I organize my room. I organize my bookshelf. I do gardening. Basically, what I do, I clean, take the weed out, do things that I feel I make a difference in something. I walk my dog for a walk, and my dog is a golden retriever, Lucy, that I made Lucy happy, that I make a difference in some being's life. So those things pin me down to earth, pin me down to life, that come to your five senses, connect, and that's what I do. And it's small things every day, do something. Like I love coffee. Make the best cup of coffee and, and just enjoy it. Exactly. That impacting something that is just today in this moment, that is good.
That is such good insight and good wisdom there. Obviously, walking your golden retriever, Lucy. I do exactly what you do, is connect. I love looking at clouds. I'm always fascinated with cloud watching, and I just get so much strength when everything else can be shattered and falling apart around me, and I can just look at a hill, a mountain with trees, and see how strong it is.
Yeah.
And get strength from that, and know that we are one with nature.
Yes.
And I think that is so important. And one of the things which I'm going to find interesting, your politics seems to always be dominating the Australian news, and still so much unrest we know with race debates, with genders. There's so much conflict going on. One of the things I took from your talk today is, if you listen to the person, completely listen, just don't be butting in and overpowering them and telling what you want them to hear, and just let them speak and understand.
That's right.
We're going to be coming into some turmoil times. Some passionate people for the left, the right. I didn't even know what left and right meant with politics, because I've never been into politics. There's a left, there's a right. I say there's a upwards, a downwards, a behind, and a backwards, and a spiral around. What would you have any tips for people that get emotionally charged with whatever their belief is? I'm thinking a lot of this conflict isn't going to be that good for our mental health.
That's right. It's a great point that outside and you feel people are drawing lines. Who's in this group, who's in that group, can be coexist, can be together. So what has happened, the sense that if you are not like me, you're an enemy, bad for me. I mean, sales of two items are very high, skyrocket high in the United States: weapons and alcohol. It's almost like you get drunk and go shoot people. So alcohol is because you numb yourself, not just beer. These are like a cocktail, serious alcohol. And then firearms. So that indicates people do not feel safe. People feel, I'm not safe here. The way I think about it, as a personal thing, that for whoever I am with, just be a person of calm, of reason, compassion, inclusion. Doesn't mean that I'm a pushover or just say, yes, I agree with you. I hold my ground, hold my boundaries, but I don't get involved with politics. Happens in my own family. I just quietly leave the room, just get involved. That does not help anybody, because people are not looking for compromise. People are looking for, say, that my idea, my party is better than you. The way I think about it, focus on things you make a difference. A person. I go walk Lucy. When in doubt, family arguments build up, I go walk Lucy and we have fun together. There are always people hurting. There are always opportunity to change the equation for one person, for one individual, one conversation. That's what I'm focusing on. That's how we change the equation, one heart, one conversation at a time.
I love that. If only one of us choose not to fight not to defend our belief, not to go into social media even and
Yeah.
read a comment and then disagree with it and call someone a terrible name, which I see a lot on
Yeah.
social media. When we disengage, that's going to help if we're feeling depressed and we feel like everything is out of our control. My auntie often says, even if you leave your opinion, it's not going to change the world. But she says it in such a way to just try and stop the fighting on the
Right.
social media. If everybody's having their say, sometimes it's like a bunch of chooks in a
Yeah.
pen squabbling
Yeah.
and you can't hear anything. Perhaps find a dog to walk, like a golden retriever like Lucy. Go for a run, go for a walk, grab a
Yeah.
coffee, spend time with a family member. And I often say the more I spend time in nature, the happier I am.
That's
Now,
right.
before we say goodbye, what inspired you to write your book?
Thank you. Great question. I've been working on this book. Part of it was ready for a long time. So I was a corporate executive. I didn't know what to do with this work. I wasn't planning to be author. So COVID helped me. So this is how it happened. I was in the corporate environment. Some people around me knew parts of the chapters I've written. They loved it. And COVID came out, the lockdown in March, and around May said, Ardeshir, everybody's freaked out. Why don't you do Zoom conference call? We get a group of people come in and just give us some tips about how do we be less stressed. I said, oh, okay, I know how to do that. So it was a session organized, and I thought maybe 10, 12, maybe 20 people show up. And I was looking at the numbers come up of how many people went 10, 20, 30, 50, 100, 200, 200, 334 people showed up. So people told others. After that, this is a global company. People wrote me from around the world, says, oh my gosh. And I have their emails. This was a breath of fresh air. You talk about depression and anxiety not as an illness, but as a human experience. Number of comments, you said, you make sense to me. Do you accept patients? Can I do therapy with you? Inside the company, I couldn't. Can I read about emotional rights? And then people came and said, can you do a session in my group, in our offsite, in this retreat? So people would come to me, hundreds. I took it as a sign that this work no longer belongs to me, that the world needs to hear it. People keep writing, and in fact, they're getting angry at me because this was a side project for me. I was having a day job. Can you come and do a session? Can you do a workshop? No, that's not my workshop. I decided, arrange to get a good payout, leave the company, and bring my work. I realized that people are hungry for a non-clinical way of looking at human emotions, that real understanding that you are powerful, you are designed powerful. If you know your operating manual, you can manage almost everything. Nobody told us that. We just go to way of clinical, pathological, emotional management. I wrote that and it was liberating for me. So I tell people this book is really not mine. I'm just the delivery guy. I'm just bringing the work that I've been working on it for decades. It belongs to the world. I'm just delivering mail. That's really what I am doing.
I know. And in your book, you shared your own personal story when you're on stage.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you were going to tell people where to go next to
Yeah.
the next room and you froze.
Yeah.
But then you remembered back to when you were a child.
Yeah. I was shamed. I was shamed a lot. I was a child. There's a book in United States, children book called Curious George. He's a little monkey who asks a lot of questions. So I was a curious George, just asking a lot of questions. I was always in trouble. I was curious, doing things I wasn't supposed to do, tasting the food I wasn't supposed to do, asking that men and women, why are you guys kissing behind the closed doors? I mean, I think I was shamed, humiliated, punished as a way to keep me in line, versus I needed to be harnessed. I need to be guided. I need to be mentored. So I learned basically to shut up. I learned to hold back. I learned to be stiff, uptight, and very controlled, and really like a soldier like. So part of this work, I'm finding me that I have opinion. People like it. Some people don't, and that's okay. And so in finding me, basically unshaming myself, I have a gift to give. Let's do it. Let's do the work.
I love that. I have a gift to give. Let's do the work. I recommend your book. I had the pleasure of reading it. I learned a lot about your personal story and also stories of other people. You had incredible quotes. I loved, I think, 8 pages in, and I saw the word Aboriginal,
Yes.
and I thought, wow, this is going to be a good book. And you also talked about the 7 emotional core needs, how to
Yes.
turn from depression to live fuller lives. And whilst we've now been going for nearly an hour and a half, like I said to my barista this morning, if we talked about these 7 emotional core needs, we'd be having a 7-hour podcast show. And I'd love to get you back on another time to go through
Absolutely.
something else. My last question is, what is your hope for your newfound book readers
Yeah.
or audio listeners?
That you can be stronger and more hopeful and finish your work. You know what you mentioned behind me, that quote, that untold story inside you. Everybody has a story. 8 billion people, 8 billion a story. Once you know your story, which we all do, is the story of you, your time on earth at this time. This book is about you finding your story, stepping into that, and doing the work to be fulfilled in this world. The single most important for me is everybody finding their story, the sense of fulfillment. Nothing more than that. I'm not a complicated guy. I just want people go from feeling burdened, name the mental illness, the journey of human soul, your journey, dear listener, is the journey of fulfillment. Step into that. That's my wish for you. That's what my work is all about. You find your pathway for fulfillment.
Love that. You find your path to
For-
fulfillment.
yeah, exactly.
You had me thinking about my story and thinking so much shame around my story, where I was the Aussie farmer. We had so many bad years of weather, crops, pricing, export debacles. The list goes on and on and on and on. And then I had to live in a shipping container
Mm.
on the
Mhm.
farm and work 7 days a week. Now, do you think that's a very glamorous story? Even my sister-in-law goes, I just don't know how you used to live in a shipping container. Had a single bedroom, a
Yeah.
little double bedroom, a little kitchen and a bathroom and a toilet. It was a tiny area. Even when you would roll over like that, you'd hit your hand on the shipping container. It's not a glamorous story. So funny, because then when I used to go to the Maldives,
Yeah.
the Maldives is crystal clear water, beautiful overwater villas. I remember being on the farm thinking, oh, I just want to go to the day spa. I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
want to be at the spa. I don't want to be working in dust and mud. And I
yeah,
very rarely tell people I lived in a shipping container,
yeah.
because I used to see the semi-trailers go past. That was like the size of where I used to live. In the back of that, how the beep? And now I think through your book, I was like, you know what? There's no shame in
That's
living
a
in a shipping
beautiful
container.
story.
The only reason I knew when spring came was not because of the spring racing carnivals,
Yeah,
not because of the horses, because the little emus would come through
yeah,
and the little chicks,
yeah,
and they'd come through the paddock,
yeah,
and that would be the sign of spring, the
yeah,
emus. It was not my best years, because farming is a fast track to depression. I should have read that before becoming a farmer,
yeah,
but sadly, some farmers end their lives.
yeah, yeah.
And when I was on the farm, that was a real reality. Other
That's right.
farmers had done that. So I'm grateful I got off the farm
Yeah,
alive. Some farmers don't. I think if I can share anything, is that after the dark comes the light.
that's right. Thank you so much for sharing your story. That you lived in that the shipping container. My first job, I was in a shipping container the office. I know the feeling. My desk, it was a refinery, like it was, I was still in
Yeah.
college, I paying bills and going there. The way to think about it, it was a real life experience. You work there. There are many people, they are in a glamorous lifestyle. In their mind, they are in a shipping container. They are stuck. That's the life that is harder to deal with because they know it. They feel stuck in the patterns, in their wealth, in their BMWs. I feel the walls of a shipping container and they feel the roar of a different person wants to break out. That is a bigger issue. That's when depression happened in successful people that I write in my book. Successful people, and we know this from research, people who are successful CEOs, entrepreneurs, they experience depression, anxiety, bipolar, ADHD, all the way to committing suicide at 2 to 3 times higher rate than general population. The reason is they get to a lifestyle, they just lose themselves. But they have a smile on their faces. They look great. They smell great. They work out, but they feel they're stuck in a shipping container and no way out. Many of us go through life, they are in a shipping container, different lives that we come out of it, we move. Life is always moving from one stage to the other. But when we go to those walls, that the grinding of the soul happened. I mean, I'm sorry about what you mentioned, your loved one committed suicide. Suicide does not happen. Suicide, the chapter of my book, Primer on Depression and Anxiety, there's a pathway to suicide. They feel isolated. They feel the life meaning has dissipated for them. They just go through the routine and they could be doing very well. And what they lose is a sense that I have no control over it. And at a certain point, they totally lose the sense of identity. So when they do that, two things happen when people take their lives. One is that I cannot go on anymore. And I know this in 2012 when I had epiphany came out of this. I was praying for death. I just couldn't go on. While I was an executive, making a lot of money, promoted. So people take their lives once they I can't go on anymore. And some people take their lives. I just want a second chance. This didn't work for me. I'm going to take my life. Hopefully, I can come back again, try again. And so part of the way to bring suicide back, knowing that suicide, when we get to that stage, we don't see it, but people are deeply isolated. They are among us, they're isolated, and they've lost a sense that I can't do anything. And they typically smile. They look very well. They look happy. They just feel totally disconnected. So it's very painful because where I live in the community right outside San Francisco is a middle-class community, number of high schools. Every year, school season, young teenagers go jump in front of incoming trains. It tears the whole family. Some of them, we know the family, and they look beautiful kids, boys and girls. And you wonder what happened. It's about isolation. It's about isolation that nobody sees you. You look great, everything, and you just feel disconnected.
And I think I learned on my journey, when I was on the farm, I worked 7 days a week, sun up to sundown, practice zero self-care. So that's why I will never do one practicing no self-care, join the self-care club, because it's so important. With no self-care and only working, then my whole identity was I'm a farmer. Be very careful with the identity. Because when I was so engrossed as a farmer, losing the farm, if the farm goes under and we go broke, homelessness, that's on the cards. That was so life-shattering, and you got a big financial burden. How are you ever going to pay this back? There's no way out. It's like you're sinking into the ground there. When you can't work your way out even financially. But what I discovered was it's the identity. Like, I'm a farmer. If this doesn't work out, there's nothing else. Well, no, I had to surrender to the fact that I'm burnt out. I'm no longer going to be able to farm my way out. And this farm's going to have to go on the market and be sold. And I'm just going to have to start over again. From nothing, from zero. That's it. And that is a tough lesson to learn,
Yeah.
But I hope by sharing my story now after reading your book and sharing it more openly, what I've learned is you can go from a farmer to visiting really nice spas in the Maldives, reading a lot of nice self-help books, doing podcast shows, and just starting to create another life. It was tough, but it can be done.
And then seeing life as a farmer girl to this life, life is one movie with different chapters. Only loving and appreciating your story. Like these days, people do come to me, men, women, different ages, different countries. Throughout the conversation, literally they do this. They point their fingers in the Zoom, says, "You get me." Ask them, what do you mean by that? They say, you don't use the terms depression, anxiety, and you talk about human experiences, what works for you, and thank them for that. And I don't discuss this. The reason I get them, I came through it. This whole thing was not a theoretical education for me. I went through it. I know when you feel in the key role in life, you're married, you have a wonderful newborn son, and you just feel dead inside. But I exercise, I have a smile on my face, I dress nice, and everyone thinks I'm successful. I'm just flat. I can't fake it. I know what it means. I know their pain, their pain and sorrows you have inside, and you feel that, can I tell somebody, say that I'm so successful, but I just feel awful? And will they just see me? See, your experience, what you did was part of your story that helped you become who you are.
And you know what's interesting I've learned? The biggest key lessons I've learned is my ego and my pride got in the way. If I would have been more open and honest and told the truth when people ask me, family and neighbors and
Yeah.
friends, how are you?
Mhm.
And if I would have been honest and said, I feel like shit, I'm not well. Reason being is we've just planted all this crop in the ground and
Yeah.
we found out now it's going to be worth $6 for a 8-kilo box.
Yeah.
The box costs $2. To send it's $2.50.
Yeah.
You can do the maths.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
looking at the crops and I already know I'm at a loss. I never told people if I was struggling
Yeah.
or doing it tough. And I think that's the biggest lessons I've learned. And you talk about it in your book. Speak your truth, tell your story. And I think that's the biggest lessons I've learned now. So
Yeah.
I can now say, if someone goes, how are you? I might say, oh, I'm actually sad. I'm
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
bit down. My uncle's died. I
That's
either
right.
write it
Yeah.
or say it. And I'm learning to more express the truth of how I feel.
Absolutely. Justin, that's real. That's being real. And that by doing that, other person also invite them, other person be real. Then you feel connected at your humanity level versus I need to be in certain role. You just being real, just being human. Humans are messy. Humans always have a lot of drama.
And do you think it's so important as well? I try not to get too hung up on my title, like just say podcast host. Well, I am today, but maybe not tomorrow.
Mhm.
You know, like I try to just not get too attached. Like this is the only thing in my life. This is the only title. Because I've learned if you just do that, it's a limiting belief. And
Yeah.
if this job one day is gone, like we experienced in the pandemic,
Yeah.
then what next? And
Yeah.
the other thing I've learned is not to get too much financially in debt.
Yeah.
Not
Absolutely.
have too much debt, because once the debt's out of control, so can your life be.
Then you'll be in the shipping box again. You'll be
Well, I could speak to you forever about your book. We've nearly done 2 hours now. How can our audience stay in touch with you after this podcast show?
Thank you. So I know my book has sold number of copies in Australia. I've seen that, Amazon sales. I see by country. So you go to Amazon, you can see my name, Ardeshir Mehran. And then the title of my book is You Are Not Depressed, You Are Unfinished. It came out in May, became an Amazon bestseller. Number one, go to my website, do Ardeshir Mehran, one word.com, and you read about my work, different chapter, different elements. And the third one, when you go to my website, there's a second tab is workshop. I do a workshop, is 8-week workshop for people to do the work. The very first 2 sessions of how do you read your body? We all operate in certain ways. The second session is your emotional right. Get an imprint of your emotional right. Do you know them? How are they showing up? The upcoming session is about reconstruction, about your life. It's about helping people actually create your new you, better, unbounded struggle, creating that life. So if this interests you, respond to all emails. Every inquiry is asking questions, resources, by all means. I'm an open source. Write me, let me know any questions. Hope to see you in my classes, in my podcast, and I'm active on LinkedIn and more starting on Instagram. I hope to see you there.
Well, thank you, Dr. Ardeshir Mehran.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, there we go. It's a nearly 2-hour podcast show, everyone, but I really hope you enjoyed that. I encourage you to grab a copy of the book, You Are Not Depressed. You Are Unfinished. And I just love that title because it's so true.
Yeah.
It really is the truth. And your depression is part, and your anxiety is part of a human experience that we all share together, no matter what journey we walk and what path we take.
No more shipping boxes. Get out of the shipping boxes.
I don't recommend it. A house is much better with 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms.
That's right.
And
That's right.
Garage. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening into this podcast episode. I hope you found this conversation of interest and of benefit to you. In support, I would love for you to subscribe to Feel Good From Within with Yvette Le Blowitz on any podcast app. I'd also love for you to leave a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts in support too. Be sure to share this show with your family, friends, and community, and to subscribe to my mailing list at YvetteLeBlowitz.com, and to follow Spirit Girl, Yvette Le Blowitz, Feel Good From Within on any social media app. And together, let's feel good from within.